What's going on, everybody? David here, back with another video. So we're going to do a stimulus package update, and I'm going to look at the CNBC interview that was it was a couple of hours ago, and they were talking about Jerome Powell. So Jerome Powell spoke yesterday, and so they're talking just a little bit about what does this mean for stimulus. Obviously, Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, he wants more stimulus. And so that's what the discussion is. But I think the discussion was really good. So I want to show it to you, and then we're going to talk about it on the other end. But before we get started, if you can do me a favor, please hit the like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. Okay, so CNBC, they interviewed an economist. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Join us now, Ian Shepherdson, founder and chief U.S. economist for Pantheon Macroeconomics. We lose sight sometimes, Ian, of just how important things like today's jobs report is. Things, Jay Powell is back in front and center in our minds, but it really never left us, did it? Because even this election, many times, is viewed from the viewpoint of what it means for stimulus after the election, which is amazing that the markets sometimes were moving not necessarily on who won the election, but on what the prospects for stimulus were.
And that's interesting, right? The stimulus package has really taken over the discussion when it comes to the market and a variety of different things. The election stimulus has taken a hold of that because people need help and businesses need help. And so it's very unfortunate that we didn't get anything done before the election, but this is in the back of everyone's mind. That's all he's saying there. And I agree with him 100%.
Depending on, who holds Congress and who takes the executive branch. So this is important. Where are we? Do we need stimulus? Jay Powell's begging for stimulus.
He is begging. Yeah, he's begging. Every time he speaks, he begs for stimulus. And I think the reason for that is he can probably see in some of the very short-term, almost real-time data that we get now on employment, especially in the services sector, which is where the real COVID hit is most severe, that things are actually going backwards now. We won't see that in the report today. So, because these are October numbers, and the October numbers will probably be like 300,000-400,000 net gain in payrolls. But November, because we're almost at the November survey week, and the real-time data since the October survey has really tanked. So I think he's probably looking ahead and thinking, look, if we don't get some action here, we could be seeing a run of outright negative payroll numbers November, December, January, because as we all know, as you just highlighted earlier, the COVID cases are rising very rapidly. The hospitalizations are rising rapidly. So people are scared and they're retreating from services. They're not going out so much. And that then leads to layoffs. So we've got a really deteriorating labor market picture on top of the fact that we've only recovered half of the jobs that we lost in the spring. So, yeah, I can understand why Mr. Powell is begging for more action.
Yeah, so they're talking about the service. So he's talking about the service industry, and he's saying the service industry is really, really. And when we're talking about service industry, we're talking about the hospitality industry mainly, but other things, airline industry, travel, all that plays a role because usually you don't. If you don't have money, you're not going and getting these different services, or even going to the movies and doing some going to restaurants and things like that. So the focus needs to be on stimulus. And that's why Jerome Powell is saying the focus needs to be on stimulus, because we need to stimulate the economy. People are scared now. The COVID-19 numbers are starting to increase again, and they're going to hunker down. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to go anywhere. And that's going to lead to layoffs, and it's going to lead to our economy tanking. And he also talked about unemployment. And so you heard that only half the people have gone back to work. So you still have a lot of people who are unemployed, and that could lead to more problems, obviously, in the future. And will they be able to get jobs back? Like, are these jobs gone forever? All right, let's go ahead and continue.
Okay. Now we need to delve back into the political arena to try to determine what some of these things mean. We're seeing that Georgia's turned. We don't know how it finally plays out, how long it's going to take. But what would if it was a lame duck President Trump, or even if he were to win re-election somehow still at this point, with the Senate now where we're not really sure how that's going to play out, although, it still looks perhaps like it's either a tie or Republicans take control. Then you've got the House. I don't know whether you'd say that Speaker Pelosi was repudiated necessarily, but that it wasn't a great showing for the House, and that may have something to do with the stance on stimulus. Does this make it more likely that near term we could get stimulus?
I think it probably does, actually, because the deterioration in the COVID picture now is so alarming. I don't want to sound like I'm scaremongering, but the number of cases is really rocketing out of control now. And hospitalizations are probably going to get back to the spring peak as soon as Thanksgiving and then just keep rising. So I think this is going to focus the minds of people in the lame duck session. And I think it'll focus the mind of Speaker Pelosi. As you said, the House election for the Democrats were really way worse than they expected. And I think that may well be because some people took the view that she was being offered stimulus. OK, it wasn't what she wanted and she didn't like it, but she turned it down at a time when the economy, I think, really needs it. And it was becoming more clear that it needs it. So I kind of think that everyone's incentives have changed a little bit in Congress since the election. Of course, we've got to think about where we end up in January. But between now and January, the lame duck session, I think, is more incentivized to act than it was before the election. So there's still some pretty hardline fiscal spending hawks on the Republican side. But I just think that from Mitch McConnell's perspective, being seen to do nothing while the COVID situation spirals out of control is now much more risky than it was for him before the election. And I think that also applies to Speaker Pelosi as well. So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping they can get together and do something really quite substantial, because the need is becoming quite severe, I think.
Okay, so he said some really important things there. The first thing I want to talk about is Nancy Pelosi. And I think the House did lose some seats because Nancy Pelosi didn't want to move forward with a stimulus. She wanted it her way or no way. And I think that did affect some of the representatives that ran for office. And so we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know if Nancy Pelosi will be the speaker again. There are some politicians right now that are very, very upset and very disappointed. Some Democrats that are very disappointed in how Nancy Pelosi handled the whole stimulus. But we'll have to see where it goes when it comes to that. And then when you look at Arizona, you have Kelly. Kelly looks like he's going to win Arizona. So that will be one seat for the Democrats. And then you have that runoff again. So that runoff, there's 2 seats there. If the Democrats can take those 2 seats, well, then now we have 50-50. And if Joe Biden wins, then we have the majority will go to the Democrats. So then you have Chuck Schumer as the majority leader. So a lot needs to happen. Right now, the Mitch McConnell is most likely going to be able to retain the leadership, but there's still a possibility. So we're going to have to see where this goes. But I think one thing that we need to really look at is Joe Biden. If Joe Biden does win, he's really going to talk with Nancy Pelosi. I'm sure he's going to have that talk and say, hey, look, you need to agree to something. We can even do a small package now and then do something later because he's going to be president now. So it will be a situation where they can work out some deals. So we'll have to see where it goes. But I want to know what you guys think. So in the comment section, let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.